December 27th, 1943. 09:17 hours. 15,000 feet above Araway, New Britain, Papua New Guinea. Major Richard Dick Bong, United States Army Air Forces, 23 years old, saw 6 Japanese A-6M0 fighters climbing toward his formation. 6 enemy aircraft, 4 American P-38 Lightnings. The mathematics were unfavorable. But mathematics didn't account for skill, didn't account for experience, didn't account for the fact that Dick Bong had already shot down 21 Japanese aircraft in the previous 8 months, was already the leading American ace in the Pacific theater, was already considered the most dangerous pilot the Japanese faced. Bong keyed his radio. 6 zeros, 11 o'clock high, climbing. His wingman, Second Lieutenant Thomas Lynch, acknowledged. The other 2 P-38s in the formation broke left, drawing 2 zeros with them. That left 4 zeros, 2 P-38s, 2 against 4. Still unfavorable. Still impossible by standard calculations. Bong didn't care about calculations. He cared about angles, speed, position, the physics of aerial combat that he understood instinctively, the way some people understand music. He pushed the throttles forward. Both Allison engines roared. The P-38 accelerated. 340 miles per hour, 360, 380, faster than the zeros could climb, faster than they could turn. Speed was life in aerial combat. Speed gave you energy. Energy gave you options. Options gave you control. Bong had speed. The zeros didn't. That was all the advantage he needed. Richard Ira Bong was born in Poplar, Wisconsin, September 24, 1920. Son of Swedish immigrants. Grew up on a farm. Learned to hunt at age 8. Exceptional marksmanship with rifles. Could hit a running rabbit at 50 yards. Could drop a duck in flight at 75. But guns weren't his passion. Flying was. He built model airplanes as a child, studied aerodynamics from library books, applied to the Army Air Corps flight training program in 1938, was accepted, graduated flight school in January 1942. 6 weeks after Pearl Harbor, America needed pilots, needed them immediately. Bong was assigned to the 49th Fighter Group, trained on P-38 Lightnings, the twin-engine, twin-boom fighter that would become synonymous with Pacific air combat. Deployed to Australia in September 1942. First combat mission, October 1942. First kill, December 27, 1942. Exactly 1 year before this mission. In 12 months, Bong had gone from inexperienced replacement pilot to leading ace. 21 confirmed victories. 10 probables, 7 damaged. He flew with precision, never wasted ammunition, never took unnecessary risks, never showboated, just did his job with mechanical efficiency that made other pilots look amateur. His squadron mates called him the farmer, not because he was slow, but because he approached combat like farming. Methodical, patient, efficient. No wasted motion. No wasted effort, just results. And today, December 27, 1943, Dick Bong was about to produce results that would make him a legend. The 4 zeros split. 2 went high, 2 went low. Standard Japanese tactic. Force the enemy to choose which threat to address. Whichever direction the enemy committed, the other pair would have a free shot. It worked against inexperienced pilots. Against pilots who panicked, against pilots who tried to defend instead of attack. Bong wasn't inexperienced, wasn't panicked, and never defended when he could attack. He rolled inverted, pulled hard. The P-38 dove toward the lower pair of zeros. -4 Gs, blood rushing to his head, vision starting to gray. He ignored it, pulled harder. The nose came down. The lead zero filled his gun sight. Range, 600 yards. Too far for accurate fire. 500 yards. Still too far. The Zero pilot saw him coming, started to turn. 400 yards. Bong's finger tightened on the trigger. 4 50 caliber machine guns and one 20mm cannon concentrated in the nose. No convergence issues. No wing-mounted guns firing at angles. Everything straight ahead. Point and shoot. He fired. 2-second burst. Tracers walked toward the Zero. Struck the fuselage behind the cockpit. The Zero shuddered. Smoke poured from the engine. The aircraft rolled left, out of control. The pilot didn't bail out, probably killed by the initial burst. The Zero spiraled down, trailing black smoke, crashed into the jungle 12,000 feet below. Victory number 22. Bong pulled up. The second Zero was turning hard right, trying to get behind him. Bong rolled, turned inside the Zero's turn. The P-38 had poor turning performance compared to the Zero. Couldn't match it in sustained turns. But in high-speed combat, with energy advantage, Bong could outturn anything for a few seconds. Just needed a few seconds. He got them. The Zero filled his gun sight. Range, 300 yards. Perfect. He fired. 1-second burst. The Zero's canopy exploded. Hits on the cockpit. The pilot slumped forward. The Zero nosed down, accelerating. Pilot dead at the controls. Crashed 2 miles from the first. Victory number 23. 2 down, 4 remaining. Bong's altitude was now 10,000 feet. He'd lost 5,000 feet in the dive and engagement. The 2 high Zeros were diving on him. Lynch was engaging another Zero. That left 1 unaccounted. Bong scanned. Found it. 6 o'clock low. Climbing. Trying to get behind him. Bad position. Bong rolled inverted again. Pulled. Split S maneuver. Trading altitude for speed. The P-38 dove. 400 miles per hour. 420. 440. Approaching the aircraft's red line. The speed where structural failure became risk. Bong held the dive. The Zero climbing toward him grew larger in his windscreen. Head-on pass. Closing speed, 600 miles per hour. Window of firing opportunity, 1 second, maybe less. At 600 yards, Bong fired. 3-second burst. Used all his ammunition. Didn't matter if he wasted it, just needed to hit. The Zero flew into the stream of tracers. Dozens of hits. Wings, fuselage, engine. The Zero disintegrated, literally came apart in midair. Wings separated from fuselage, engine tore free. Pilot still strapped in his seat fell separately, no parachute, dead before he could react. Victory number 24. 3 down, 3 remaining. Bong pulled out of the dive at 5,000 feet. Speed, 460 miles per hour. Altitude, critically low. Ammunition, nearly depleted. Fuel, sufficient. Engines, both running hot but functional. He had maybe 30 seconds of ammunition remaining. Maybe 1 more engagement. Maybe 2 if he was precise. The 2 Zeros that had been high were still diving, trying to catch him. Bong turned into them. Head-on engagement. Again. It was his specialty. Most pilots avoided head-on passes. Too dangerous. Too little time to aim. Too much risk of collision. But Bong preferred them. Because in a head-on pass, both aircraft were committed. No evasion. No turning. Just pure shooting. And Dick Bong was the best shot in the Pacific. The first Zero opened fire at 800 yards. Too far. Tracers passed wide. Bong didn't fire. Waited. 700 yards. 600. The Zero's fire was getting closer. Tracers passing within feet of his cockpit. 500 yards. Bong fired. Last ammunition. Maybe 15 rounds left. All had to count. The rounds struck the Zero's engine. The radial engine that powered all Zeros. Hit the cylinders. Penetrated the cooling fins. Ruptured fuel lines. The engine caught fire instantly. Aviation fuel burning at 2,000 degrees. The Zero nosed down. The pilot bailed out. Parachute opened at 3,000 feet. He would survive. Probably be captured by Allied forces. Probably spend the rest of the war in a prisoner camp. But he would live. Bong passed the burning zero at combined closing speed of 700 miles per hour. 1 second they were 600 yards apart. The next second they passed with 10 feet of separation. Bong felt the heat from the burning zero through his canopy, felt the turbulence from its passage. Then it was behind him, falling, burning, dead. Victory number 25. 4 down, 2 remaining. And Bong was out of ammunition, completely dry. All 4 50 caliber machine guns empty. The 20mm cannon empty. Nothing left. 2 zeros still in the air, still hostile, still trying to kill him. And he couldn't shoot back. The second high zero was turning, trying to get on Bong's tail. Lynch radioed. "Bong, break right. 0 on your 6. Bong broke right. Hard turn. The zero followed. Fired. Tracers passed through the space where Bong had been. Close. Too close. Bong continued turning. The zero stayed with him, turning inside the P-38's turn radius, gaining position, getting closer to firing solution. Lynch dove, attacked the zero from above, fired, missed. The zero broke off from Bong, turned to engage Lynch. Lynch broke away, climbed. The zero followed. Bong saw the opportunity. The last zero, the 6th from the original formation, was diving on Lynch. 2 on 1. Lynch was in trouble. Bong turned toward the fight. No ammunition. Couldn't shoot. But he could help. Could distract. Could make the zeros defensive instead of offensive. He dove toward the nearest zero, the one chasing Lynch. Lined up as if for a gun run. The zero pilot saw him. Saw the P-38 diving at attack angle. Broke off from Lynch, turned to face Bong. Head-on pass. The zero fired. Bong didn't, couldn't, had no ammunition. But the zero pilot didn't know that. Thought Bong was holding fire for closer range. Thought Bong was confident. Thought Bong was about to kill him the way he'd killed the previous 4. The zero pilot broke, turned away, defensive. Bong pressed. Followed the zero through the turn. Still couldn't shoot. But maintained pressure. Kept the zero defensive. Kept it from attacking Lynch. The 6th zero arrived. Attacked Bong from behind. Fired. Round struck Bong's P-38. Left engine. Coolant line severed. Temperature gauge spiked. 120 degrees. 130. 140. The engine was overheating. Without coolant, it would seize within minutes. Bong shut down the left engine, feathered the propeller. The P-38 could fly on one engine. Not well, not at full performance, but it could fly. The zero closed, fired again. Rounds struck the right engine nacelle. No critical damage, but close, too close. Bong dove. Maximum power on the remaining engine. 300 miles per hour, 320. The zero followed, gaining, closing the distance. Bong's right engine temperature was rising. 110 degrees, 115. Not overheating, but stressed. Being pushed beyond normal limits. It wouldn't last much longer. Lynch saved him. Lynch came from above, attacked the zero chasing Bong. Fired, hit. The zero's tail section disintegrated. The aircraft tumbled, out of control, crashed into the ocean. The last zero broke off, ran, dove toward the deck, escaped. Lynch didn't chase, low on fuel, low on ammunition, and Bong was flying on one engine with the other damaged. Mission complete. Time to go home. Bong turned toward base, 40 miles away, flying at 250 miles per hour on one engine. Right engine temperature still climbing, 120 degrees, 125. He reduced power, temperature stabilized, but speed dropped to 200 miles per hour. The P-38 was barely flying, struggling to maintain altitude, fighting to keep airborne with half its power gone and the other half failing. Bong nursed it, adjusted trim constantly, monitored every gauge, talked to the aircraft like it was alive, like it could hear him, like his voice could convince it to keep flying just a little longer. 20 miles from base, right engine temperature, 130 degrees, approaching red line. 10 miles from base, temperature, 135 degrees, past red line, into danger zone. 5 miles from base, temperature, 140 degrees, critical. The engine could seize at any moment, could catch fire, could explode. Bong saw the airfield, runway visible. He was going to make it, going to land, going to survive. 2 miles from the field, the right engine seized, locked up, stopped rotating. Propeller froze. The P-38 lost all remaining power, became a glider, a very heavy glider with poor aerodynamic efficiency. Bong was at 1,000 feet altitude, 2 miles from the runway. He calculated. Glide ratio for P-38, approximately 8-to-1. From 1,000 feet, he could glide 8,000 feet. 2 miles was 10,560 feet. He was 2,560 feet short. He wasn't going to make the runway. Bong looked for alternatives. Open field half a mile short of the runway. Rice paddy, soft ground, but flat, survivable. He aimed for it, configured for landing. Gear down, flaps down. The P-38 descended, 800 feet, 600. The rice paddy was close, 400 feet. He could see individual plants, see water between the rows, see that the ground was softer than he'd hoped. The P-38 would sink, would nose over, possibly flip. 200 feet. Bong made final adjustments, aimed for the driest section, the part with less water, less mud. 100 feet. 50 feet. The main wheels touched. Soft earth. The aircraft sank 6 inches, slowed rapidly. The nose wheel touched, sank deeper, 12 inches into mud. The P-38 stopped. Didn't flip. Didn't crash. Just stopped. Stuck in mud in a rice paddy half a mile from base. Bong shut down all systems, unstrapped, opened the canopy, climbed out onto the wing, stood there looking at his aircraft. Both engines dead, left engine with severed coolant line, right engine seized, fuselage with bullet holes from the 6th Zero, but structurally intact, repairable. He'd survived, had shot down 4 enemy aircraft in one mission, had been shot himself, had flown 40 miles on one dying engine, had crash-landed in a rice paddy, and walked away, unhurt. Mission complete. The ground crew found him 20 minutes later, standing next to his P-38, smoking a cigarette, calm, as if crash landing was routine, as if shooting down 4 aircraft in one mission was ordinary. The crew chief, Technical Sergeant Raymond Walker, inspected the damage, counted the bullet holes. 14 rounds had hit the aircraft, most in the left engine, 3 in the right engine nacelle, 2 in the vertical stabilizer. Looked at Bong. "Major, you're lucky to be alive." Bong shrugged. "Lucky would have been not getting hit." "You got 4? "4 confirmed. Lynch got 1. 1 escaped." Walker whistled. 4 in one mission. That's got to be some kind of record. "Maybe. I don't keep track." But others did. The 49th Fighter Group kept meticulous records. Every mission, every engagement, every victory. 4 confirmed kills in one mission was exceptional, but not unprecedented. Other pilots had done it. What made this mission notable was that Bong had done it while being shot, while losing an engine, while flying 40 miles on failing power, while crash landing in a rice paddy. Most pilots who got 4 kills had uneventful returns to base. Bong had nearly died, had pushed his aircraft and himself beyond normal limits, had survived through skill, luck, and the structural integrity of the P-38 that absorbed 14 rounds and kept flying. The mission report was filed. Sent up the chain of command. Reached General George Kenney, commander of the 5th Air Force. Kenney read it twice. Called Bong to his office. Asked for details. Bong gave them. Concise. Factual. No embellishment. Kenney listened. Asked one question. Why didn't you break off when you ran out of ammunition? Because Lynch needed help. You could have died. Yes, sir. But Lynch would definitely have died. Seemed like a reasonable trade. Kenney stared at him. Realized he was serious. Realized that Bong calculated combat in terms of probabilities and values. That he'd determined Lynch's certain death was worse than his own possible death. That he'd acted accordingly. Without hesitation. Without doubt. Kenney promoted him. Not immediately. But the decision was made that day. Dick Bong would become America's leading ace. Would be given the resources, the support, the recognition to achieve it. Not because he was reckless, but because he was precise. Because he treated combat as engineering problem. Because he saved his wingmen even when it endangered him. Because he represented everything the Army Air Forces wanted their pilots to be. Bong flew 69 more missions after December 27, 1943. Shot down 15 more aircraft. Ended the war with 40 confirmed victories. More than any other American pilot in history. Received the Medal of Honor, presented by General Douglas MacArthur personally. The citation mentioned conspicuous gallantry and intrepidity in action above and beyond the call of duty. Mentioned specific missions, specific victories, specific acts of courage. But didn't mention December 27, 1943. Didn't mention the 4 kills in one mission. Didn't mention flying 40 miles on one engine. Didn't mention crash landing in a rice paddy. Those details were in the mission report. Archived. Available to historians. But not emphasized. Because Dick Bong did things like that routinely. 4 kills while nearly dying was exceptional for other pilots. For Bong, it was Tuesday. After the war, Bong became test pilot, flew experimental aircraft, including the Lockheed P-80 Shooting Star, America's first operational jet fighter. On August 6, 1945, the same day the atomic bomb was dropped on Hiroshima, Bong took off from Burbank, California in a P-80, routine test flight. The aircraft's fuel pump malfunctioned. Engine failed on takeoff. Bong tried to restart. Couldn't. Too low to bail out. Too little altitude to glide back to the runway. He attempted emergency landing. The P-80 crashed, exploded on impact. Dick Bong was killed instantly. 24 years old. Survived 2 years of combat in the Pacific. Shot down 40 enemy aircraft. Flew hundreds of missions. Dodged thousands of bullets. Survived crash landing in a rice paddy. Died testing a jet fighter over California. The irony was not lost on anyone. The greatest American ace. Killed not in combat but in peace. Not by enemy fire but by mechanical failure. Not over the Pacific but over his own country. His funeral was held in Poplar, Wisconsin, his hometown. Thousands attended. Fellow pilots, military officials, civilians who'd never met him but knew his name, knew his record, knew what he represented. General Kenney gave the eulogy, spoke about Bong's courage, his skill, his dedication, his modesty. Mentioned that Bong never sought recognition, never promoted himself, never considered himself special, just did his job. Shot down 40 aircraft, saved his wingmen, flew when others wouldn't, and died doing what he loved, flying. The P-38 Lightning that Bong flew on December 27, 1943, was recovered from the rice paddy. Repaired. Returned to service. Flew 30 more missions with other pilots. Survived the war. Was eventually scrapped in 1946. Cut apart for aluminum recycling. No pieces remain. No museum preserved it. But photographs exist. Grainy black and white images showing a P-38 stuck in mud. showing bullet holes in the nacelle, showing a young pilot standing next to his aircraft, smoking, calm, alive. Those photographs are in archives now, available to researchers, available to anyone who wants to see what America's greatest ace looked like after shooting down 4 aircraft while nearly dying. He looked ordinary, not heroic, not dramatic, just ordinary. A young man in flight suit, cigarette, slight smile, as if crash landing was amusing rather than terrifying. That ordinariness was his strength. He didn't think of himself as special, didn't think of himself as hero, just as pilot doing his job. The fact that his job involved shooting down 40 enemy aircraft was coincidental. Someone had to do it. Happened to be him. December 27, 1943 was exceptional only in numbers. 4 kills in 1 mission. But the pattern was ordinary for Bong. Engage enemy, shoot accurately, survive through skill and luck, return to base, file report, repeat tomorrow. He did it 69 times in combat, got 40 victories, saved countless wingmen, influenced American air doctrine, proved that precision and discipline outperformed aggression and recklessness, that the best pilots weren't the loudest or most dramatic, but the most methodical. The ones who treated combat like engineering, calculated, precise, efficient. That was Dick Bong. That was his legacy. Not just 40 victories, but a demonstration that aerial combat could be mastered through science rather than art, through calculation rather than instinct, through discipline rather than courage, though courage helped. Especially on December 27, 1943, when he shot down 4 Zeros, got shot himself, flew 40 miles on 1 dying engine, crash-landed in a rice paddy, and walked away to do it all again tomorrow. That was Dick Bong, America's greatest ace. Farm boy from Wisconsin. 24 years old when he died. 40 victories when he stopped counting. 1 mission where he proved that impossible was just another calculation, another problem, another solution. 4 aircraft down, 1 engine dead, 1 dying, 40 miles to fly, 2,000 feet short of the runway, but still alive, still fighting, still flying, until the very end. That's the story. That's the legend. That's Dick Bong.